Okay.
It's over.
Now, let's get this done right now. I'm going to tell you how this show was generally for people, and apologize that I'm going to skip something. I'm sure I'm going to forget something or skip something. So ask me below if I've forgotten something. Please tell me below, and I'll tell you what I feel about it. Because I'm sure I'm going to miss something. I'm going to miss something. But I want to say this. What do we get from this show? I'm going to say this for those that watch me, and I've always been honest. As someone who does review of Impact, AEW, and WWE, many of you will not like this show. I'm just going to say it right now. Many of you will not like this show because you're going to say it's too much wrestling, not much story. I'm going to say this. There's going to be people here going to say the story's not bad, but then the wrestling is just trash. It's just all flippy stuff. And next to them not liking AEW, they're just going to trash it. And there's others who are just going to absolutely love it like crazy, that every match was perfect. I'm sure just Alex and JD are going to say almost practically, or all the matches were absolutely perfect. But as someone like me, who's generally, I tell you exactly how I feel. I'm not going to tell you that this was a perfect show. It was damn good. I'm not going to say it wasn't. It was a damn good show. Much better than I expected it to be, and much more than No Mercy. I'm being honest here. I did a review of NXT No Mercy, which was really good. This was better. It was. It was better than No Mercy. Just telling the truth. So, let's get this done. That we got a lot to unwrap. Hopefully I don't forget anything important. But if I do, just like I said, ask me below how I think about it. Now, the first thing they opened with was Antonio Inoki's dedication. Now, because WrestleDream is supposed to be based on the love of Antonio Inoki. Now, for me personally, I never did know much about Japanese wrestling when I was growing up. Very little Japanese wrestlers I knew. To almost none. And the match between Antonio Inoki and Muhammad Ali, I never did see as a kid. It happened when I was young. I never did see it. So I didn't know much about Japanese pro wrestling until the 2000s, when I was already in my 30s. And I heard about New Japan Pro Wrestling. I heard about All Japan and New Japan. And that was mostly due through some of the DVDs I had through WWE and the one who will not be named, Mr. Benoit. I know you don't like to hear him, but I gotta say that. That's why I learned most about New Japan Pro Wrestling, because I didn't know it. And Eddie Guerrero, I didn't know that much about it. But until I saw the documentaries on their lives from New Japan, I didn't really know much about it. I heard that it existed, but I didn't know. So this was meant as a dedication. His grandsons were there. So they wanted to make it so important that this is the first of many shows that are going to be based on showing Antonio Inoki as much respect as possible. Even, who was there as well? I believe Sabata was there. And he was someone that was, like, sponsored by Inoki. So it was good to see him there. Now, when they opened, it was very good music. I loved it. I'm going to tell you this, that if this was the type of music that Inoki used to like, or something that's based in Japan, that was beautiful music. I loved the opening for it. So, it was great. Now, that was before the main match. Now, when we got the kickoff show, let's put it like this. The first match was an 8-person tag, which I kind of wish they just let them just mix tag. Or, you know what I mean, just let them both go at each other. Because that's what they did. Instead of being an 8-person tag, it was just a loud intergender match. That's what we needed, an intergender match instead of an 8-person. Because we had Mercedes Martinez, we had Diamante, we had Starks, I believe her name is Danny Starks, I can't remember her first name, and Athena. Then we had Lee Moriarty, we had Shane Taylor, then we had Keith Lee and Kojima. Now, I've seen Kojima a couple of times before. He's not bad. Not a bad wrestler. But let's make this clear. It would have been better if it had been an intergender match than an 8-person tag, because the women were interacting with the men. Of course, they were mainly interacting with Lee Moriarty because he was the smallest guy there. And they weren't going to do that with Kojima. They weren't going to mess over Kojima. Kojima was going to mess with the men only. He was not going to mess with the women. And there was no way that Keith Lee and, well, Shane Taylor did get approached by Athena, and she was ready to rip his head off. And then you see Keith Lee put his hand out saying, "Come on, sis, let me take him." And she was pissed because she wanted to try and mess him up. That's what we got. Kojima got the pin over Lee Moriarty. I'm not surprised. And they showed him a lot of respect. So, I'm cool with that. The next match. Now, this was one of the first of the really good grapple wrestling matches. Now, we got... now, I'm going to be honest here. Since I was in my 20s, I didn't watch anything of UFC or MMA. I didn't. I just did not have it, at the moment, cable to watch it, but also the interest. I wasn't really big on MMA. But knowing that Josh Burnett is one of those founders of how mixed martial arts in the 90s and early 2000s went, and he went up against Claudio, was interesting. Especially that this was more of a grapple match than it was a pro wrestling match, even though they tried to make it more pro wrestling. Now, we have Mox and JR on commentary. Now, JR knew Burnett for quite a many years. And it seemed that Mox had been training with him for a couple of years when he's not doing pro wrestling. So that's how the connection is for both of them. In the end, Claudio won, and Burnett said it clearly. "I heard about you for many years. I heard about you for more than a few years from people that I knew in the business and someone I trained with." In other words, Mox. And he made it very clear, "You are the real deal. You won my respect." And Inoki, and I knew Inoki, if he was alive today, he would more than approve. He'd be a fan of you. But he made it very clear, you know what? Even though I'm showing you respect, this ain't over. We're going to have another match. Anytime, anywhere, any place, that's what Claudio said. They gave a good shake, and that was it. I'm fine with that. That was all right. Now, the match that was supposed to set up what happened at night, at the end of the night, not night. Luchasaurus versus Nick Wayne. Nick was destroyed by Luchasaurus. He just was. His mother was at rings, well, not ringside, but out with the fans, but he got demolished by him. This was setting up for later in the night. So that's what they had to do with Nick Wayne. They just wanted him to be out there. They wanted to show that he could wrestle, but he got destroyed. Okay. Final match. This was the AEW Trios Championship. And this was MDK, I don't remember the guys' names there, but they're all part of MDK, versus the Acclaimed. Now, you know who's going to win. The Acclaimed was going to win. There's no... The Acclaimed are too damn over to give up those damn titles. Daddy Ass is too damn over. Roman and Caster are way too much over. Let's make it clear. The way Caster does his rap, it's just gold. They can't just dump it too easily. There has to be something they can do afterward. Either they turn them really bad heels again, or daddy ass heel again, or they just, that's it. They're that over, and giving them the trios titles make the most sense. They won, we move on. Now, the match that was the most comedic. Let's make this clear. For those that'll probably think there was only one freaking match that was good on AEW, that was fun, that made the most sense, that I only cared about, would be this match. And this is the first match on the main card, and that was the ROH tag titles. When it came to the Righteous, yes, barely any build with them, which is sad. And MJF. No Adam Cole. He's injured. He's out. Supposedly out. I know some people said he might, I think just Alex believed this is a work. That is not real, that he needs surgery for his ankle. It's a possibility he does. But that's what he thinks. It's not the point if he's faking it or if it's real. They decided to keep MJF with the tag titles and his world title. He didn't have to defend it tonight. So he had no match other than this. And he is so over right now as a betweener. And believe me, the way this match went, and when he first started, he said, I forgot, it was Vincent, he said that Duke and Vincent, no, Dutch and Vincent, not Duke, Dutch and Vincent, he told Dutch he's going to get him with a body slam, and then he said he's going to take Vincent and grab him by his hair and ram him straight up Dutch's ass. That's what he was going to do. This is where the Eddie Guerrero effect comes in. Lie, cheat, and steal. He was doing everything. He was lying, he was cheating, he was stealing. That was MJF. He was doing everything to win that match. Yes, he was. He was lying, he was cheating, he was stealing. He did the Eddie Guerrero effect. And there was nothing wrong with that. He was entertaining. Remember, MJF doesn't have to be entertaining. He's actually a very good wrestler. But with his character being more of a betweener than anything else, he literally, and I thought of him more of his face than he is a betweener, but he is an in-betweener. He's a heel and he's a face. Let's make that clear. He did everything to cheat. And in the end, he won. He won. And no one had a problem because he's that damn over. And this is the only match I truly believe that the ones who don't like the heavy wrestling is going to like the most. Making it clear. This is one of the shows, one of the part of the show where it's more character driven, more fun, more pantomime, more like what you would think of WWE type of style, or a little bit of Impact Wrestling, but more WWE type of style. He's joking around, he does the kangaroo kick, he beats them both, and then he moves on. That's what we get. Now, the next match was for not only the ROH World title, but the New Japan Pro Strong Openweight title. Eddie Kingston versus Sabata. Oh, was it? Not Sabata. Is it Sabata? Yeah, Sabata. Who was in the opening, I believe. No, was he? Was it Ibushi? Or was it Sabata? I think it was Sabata who was with the Antonio Unaki tribute. It's kind of hard to remember, even though I have the notes here. But essentially, Sabata had an opportunity to get both titles, become a triple threat. Since he's a pure champion, he could have been the world champion, and he could have been an openweight champion for New Japan Pro Strong. So, there's nothing wrong with that. And this was a clash of styles from what I understand. You got Eddie, who's more of a All Japan Pro Wrestling style type of wrestler, and Sabata being a New Japan Pro Wrestling type of style. And the only person I know, if I'm right, that has managed to wander between both has been the Great Muta, because he's worked in All Japan, he's worked in New Japan, and he started Pro Wrestling Noah, I believe. At least helped to start it. So he's the only person I know that has gone between both and knows both styles of how both companies like to be. So we got a chance to see Eddie Kingston, who is over like stink. My boy Eddie. Eddie's the one I love. I love Eddie. Eddie Kingston, when he was part of the OGs in Impact, I loved his work there. I'm telling you, he's that good. I've known him for years. Yeah, not everyone was into him, but I always said Eddie was damn good. He's one of the best I've ever seen in the mic, and he's a good wrestler. And here, he worked his ass off to make Sabata look great. Took everything Sabata had, and Sabata took everything he had, and in the end, we got the winner and still champion of both titles, Eddie Kingston, which I'm fine with. I just have to admit here that as much as I'm fine with it, I would have loved him to be more of a TNT champion or world champion by now, because he's proven how good he is and how much people love him. I'm hoping by next year he'll drop both titles and move on either to the TNT title or eventually the world title. And hopefully MJF will not be champion by then. That's what I'm hoping for, that he can take it. Because I truly believe that AEW can benefit from Eddie being champion, either the TNT or world. That's just me. Next, the weakest match of the entire card. The TBS title. Not the world title for the women, but the TBS title of Chris Statlander and Julia Hart. Now understand, I'm not against Julia. I'm not against Chris Statlander. I actually like Chris. I do. But I do believe that she was not built correctly because they just let her get the damn title instead of giving her time after she came back to build her up. They just didn't do it. And I don't agree with that. That was dumb. But let's make it clear. The match itself was not 100% trash, but to be honest, that is a dynamite match. That's what that was. Why didn't we get Toni Storm versus... who was it? Toni Storm was supposed to get a rematch, wasn't she? I believe. I'm trying to remember. And where's Saraya? Why wasn't she on the show? Why couldn't she been in this spot? And you could have done this on Dynamite. I'm just being honest here. In the end, Statlander won. I'm not surprised. And you see Julia being taken away on the back of a Brody King, who still is in the cast. I don't know where they're going to go now with Julia Hart. And definitely don't know what they're going to keep doing with Statlander. Is she going to keep doing open challenges? I'm bored with that. I want a story for her. If she doesn't have a story, what was the point of keeping the TBS title active? They should have just gotten rid of it and just simply either got rid of the title after Jade Cargill was gone or put it on someone else, like a Ruby Soho, like I said, should have had it, and it would have gone to the Outcast where everyone had to fight against the Outcast. I'm just saying. Okay, the Fatal 4-Way for the number one contendership to go after FTR. We got Orange and Hook, the Bucks, the Guns, and the Lucha Brothers. Now, I'm not sure who hurt Rey Fenix because I think it might have been Orange. I'm not sure. But during the match, Rey's shoulder was already taped up pretty heavily. I think it was his right shoulder. Or was it his left? I think it was his right. Heavily taped up. And when he did either a backdrop or a body slam, something happened and he was hanging like this for quite a while, and then he was gone. I'm taking a guess a possible separated shoulder or dislocated shoulder. I'm not sure which one, but he was like this, and he was done after a certain amount of time. He was out. Now the question's going to be, is he all right? Can he wrestle against, was it Nick Jackson, I believe he's going to be going up against, or was it Matt? No, Nick, on this Dynamite for the 4-year anniversary. So I don't know if he even can wrestle, but he was done. He didn't show up at all after a while. It was just Penta by himself. But in the end, the Bucks won the match. So now they're going to get another shot against FTR. I'm not saying it was bad, but it wasn't great. And I also got to say, I think Nick, or was it Matt, but Nick was a bit sloppy near the end. It was a sloppy move when he was trying to do a flip off one of the turn ropes. Not the buckle, but the ropes, because he was in the middle of the ropes, not on either buckle. Like this. The buckle, he was here, his stunt was there, and he messed up. I'm just saying. The match that was the third best match for me. I think the third. Maybe the fourth, but I think it's tied with third. It's going to be tied with another match as third best match. Strickland versus Hangman Page. Let's make this clear. Let's not get it twisted. Look, it's rare to see someone who's in their hometown win in WWE. It's rare. They never used to win. And now, even though things may be a little bit different in WWE, you still don't see them constantly win. They don't. I have to say, at least in AEW, they do it a little more easily, much more than normal other promotions would. Strickland already won. We know he won. But he was so over in his home that Hangman Page was the bad guy. And it was all about messing up. Strickland had a messed up hand. And Hangman Page, I forgot, was a messed up knee? Or was it his arm? His right arm. That's what the story about that was. Next to Strickland won his spot. Now I got to tell you this. This was a damn good match. Strickland like I normally say, Strickland doesn't always sell very well to anyone, either because he just can't do it or he doesn't want to do it. But there are some occasions where he does sell very well. This is one of those occasions. He sold pretty well. I'm not saying he sold his ass off. No. He sold well, like he should. Especially with a Hangman Page. But I'm going to say this. This is my personal preference. I'm sorry, guys. I don't normally put in politics or religion or ideals in my videos. I just don't. But as someone who honestly does not believe that the statement that is being said in AEW is needed, I'm just saying this for me, that hearing that Strickland is saying, eventually I'm going to be the first black AEW champion, honestly is not needed. I'm being honest here. What are we, 1950s? 1960s? Look, Impact Wrestling gave Bobby Lashley the win years ago. WWE did it with Kofi. Okay? And I'm telling you as someone who's part black. I may not look it, but I'm part black. As someone who grew up during the years where everything was crazy. At this point, to constantly keep saying something like this, saying this is going to be the first black this, doesn't make you sound like you've grown or moved away from, okay, we got what we want. We got a lot of equality. We should just accept the way it is and not have to say it. And hearing Strickland say as the first black AEW champion doesn't require it. It doesn't. I don't believe he even needed it. AEW is not like WWE back in the 60s where they would not let a pure black wrestler win their damn championship. It had to be The Rock, who was half black, half Samoan. We don't have that anymore. So hearing this, honestly, for me personally, feels like a detriment to AEW than it is as an asset. I just feel like it's not necessary. Let's move on. Now, of course, you can tell me how you feel below. If you agree with that, I'm fine with it, but explain why. If it's needed, when it's not. Just explain it. Let's move on to Wheeler Yuta versus Ricky Starks. Now, this is an interesting one. When you have, again, you got Moxley on commentary. Speaking for he did with Claudio, now he's doing it for Wheeler Yuta. And let's make it clear, he's going to get fined because he started, if there was an order that you can't curse too much, that if you curse too much on pay-per-view, which I don't think there is, he can curse as much as he wants. It's a pay-per-view. It's not like it's open regular television. It's pay-per-view. He should be able to curse this out. He can say fuck, shit, pussy, whatever, asshole, whatever he wants. It's a pay-per-view. But at one point throughout the show, he was told, damn, he gets into the back, he's going to have to pay a lot of fines. But he was there doing commentary, which this wasn't bad commentary, but the one with Zack Sabre Jr. and Moxley with, well, Zack Sabre Jr., Moxley on commentary, and Bryan Danielson in that match, he did a great job. And I'll explain what I mean about that in a minute. Not explain, but see. He was talking about it, saying how Wheeler Yuta has been trained, how he's doing this and that. But this is the first time Wheeler Yuta was on his own on a pay-per-view. He wasn't with Blackpool Combat Club. It was just him by himself, and Mox was on commentary, since we know he still can't wrestle because he's concussed. Just in case you didn't think he was concussed. Oh, hang on a second. Still working? Yes, I had to check my mic. I'm sorry. This has happened to me when the battery's beginning to get low on my mic. I had to check. Sorry for the click. I had to make sure the mic is still working. But this was a good match. It was a very good match. Good chain wrestling. Some good story. Mox's own commentary really did help to a certain extent. But I do believe they weren't too happy about his commentary because he seemed to be talking over McGuinness and Excalibur. And at one point even, and I'll explain more when the greatest wrestlers clash with each other. But I think They weren't too happy about that. But in the end, you get a Ricky Starks winning, which was fine. Ricky needed to win. He needed that win against someone in Blackpool Combat Club. And I do believe eventually when Mox recovers, he's got his next challenger. Because right now Mox just can't wrestle, at least I don't think yet. He still has concussion. So I think when Mox recovers, that is the next person that a Ricky Starks may go up against if he doesn't go up against Claudio or do Wheeler Yuta again. That's just me. But I know that, and Just Gage is saying, dude, what about Big Bill? He saved him. Yes, he did. But I'm not including Big Bill because that was near the end of the match and he didn't interfere with just once. I'm just saying. Next. And this was the match that made me talk so much about Moxley. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson. He also was in his hometown. And this was the best technical wrestler versus the best technical wrestler. Not the best in the world, like in a Punk, but two of the best technical wrestlers that exist. And I'm telling you right now, for me personally, this was the best match of the night for me. The best. There was none better. It was that damn good. And understand, it reminded me of two matches. Two. The first match, WrestleMania, I believe it was 17. The first time Kurt Angle went up against a one who would not be named, but I gotta say Chris Benoit, really go up against each other for the first time at a pay-per-view. When they did Dead Chain Wrestling, they had dead silence. No one cared. By the end of it, they turned their asses around and made everyone cheer. And that was their first real, full interaction on a pay-per-view. They had not done anything on a pay-per-view before. I don't know if they had already wrestled each other by then. But this would be, let's say, generally the first time they really gave it their all. And then the next one was in 2003, and that was, I do believe that was the Royal Rumble. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But I think it was the Royal Rumble 2003 when they had that match. Those two matches are ones that stick in my mind as the best when it comes to two great technical wrestlers who can go. I don't think there's anyone that is that damn good when it came to Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle. The closest I've seen is this. This match was it. With as many grapple wrestling moves and near pinfalls, but more about submission than anything else. They wanted to submit the other. They wanted to prove who was the best grapple and technical wrestler. This is the best I've seen since those two matches with those two people that I just mentioned. It was that good. At one point, you can see Audrey Edwards is just so next to being tired, trying to keep up with them, so excited to see the best wrestling she ever saw. And when the match was over and Bryan Danielson won, he did win. He won. He gave her a hug. That's how special it was. I've never known Audrey to just hug someone in a match after the match was over. She hugged Bryan Danielson or Bryan Danielson hugged her. It didn't matter. That was a hug that was to remember. That's how great this was. And I would not be surprised if they did it again. If they did it again, I would not have a problem with it. Now, mind you, this story of it was about the metal in his arm, and that's Bryan Danielson, and Zack Sabre Jr.'s, I believe, left or right, I think right leg, that was worked on by Bryan Danielson. But the arm that has now a steel rod in it compared to the leg, that was the general story. And they made that match all about when Bryan hurt Zack Sabre Jr.'s knee, left leg and knee, and Zack focused on his right forearm where the metal pin is. Well, not metal pin, the metal rod is. That was the story. Who was the greatest technical wrestler? Who can make the other one submit or get pinned? It was that great. But for me, number one. Number one match, flat out. Now the next match. And, how can I say this? The 6-man tag, Osprey, Kateska, and Sammy versus Ibushi, Kenny, and Chris. I'm not going to tell you the match was bad because it was not bad. It wasn't. It was a good match. And this shows you that Chris can still keep up with everyone there. Chris Jericho, at 52 years old, my age, is still able to maintain a very good level. He's not here. Let's make it clear. Chris is not here. He's past his prime. This is middle of the road. This is crap. This is middle. He's somewhere right here. He's not here. He's here. He's not here. He's somewhere in the middle. Still able to give very high quality wrestling. He's still able to be active. Kateska dealing with Ibushi, that was good. Seeing that Ibushi at one point was just so angry in how things were going that he amped up, was ready to rip someone's head off. Knocked out, well, he knocked out Will, he knocked out Sammy at one point, and basically Kateska and him were going back and forth until either Kateska got him pretty good, but then he got Kateska back. I'm not going to tell you that was one of the best matches. It was not. It was a good match, but I'm going to be honest. Not everyone is going to like this match that cares about 6-man tags. They'll think it's a good match, but it's not the greatest match. What was all about it was the story of Don Callis and Don Callis' family, and Don screwing over Kenny again, using Kateska, Will, and Sammy to do it. He screwed them over. And, of course, Don Callis' family won. The question is, where's the story going to go next? Don't know. Now, what's next? Aussie Open versus FTR. Now, by the time this match had happened, it was already 10-something, nearing 11. And that match had to live up to a lot after what we had from the best technical wrestlers. And this 6-man tag. It was the second best match of the night. Now, mind you, story behind it, barely any story. There was almost no story. But due to the fact that trying to make FTR the greatest tag team there is, they have to go up against other tag teams. It's just not enough story here, and it's not enough. But if you go by just the wrestling, you will be satisfied with it. Aussie Open did not win. Of course, I didn't expect them to win. But now we're going to get a story of the Bucks going against FTR again. This will be the third, or is this the fourth showing of FTR and the Bucks? I can't remember. But I know that this will probably be the third one. No, is it the third or the fourth? I can't remember. But essentially speaking, this was a good match that's going to lead into another story with the Bucks and FTR. Finally, let's make this clear. This is the second best match of the night. It just is. It is. Because of how brutal the match was and what happened at the end. 2 out of 3 falls. Christian Cage versus Darby Allin. Now, each one of them got a pin. Darby got a pin, and Christian got a pin. Darby managed to roll up Christian, which pissed his ass off, and Christian was willing to destroy Darby. He was not joking around. He was so angry. He literally, I think I got a couple of shots of it, he literally lifted the steel steps. Well, not steel step, but the aluminum steps, let's be honest. If they were heavy steel, no one would be able to lift them. They'd be very heavy. They were aluminum steps. He put them down, and he threw Darby once on his tailbone really hard after he tried to suplex him off and over the top turn rope. After he did that, he threw him on to the steel steps. Not once, but twice. And I'm not talking about the top flat area of the steel steps. I think I got images in my face. It was the steps themselves. When you're going to step down, that is where you got thrown. It was brutal. It was so bad. Even even Nick Wayne's mom was so upset. And also Nick Wayne, sorry, and also, spitting on myself. Nick Wayne's wife, you know what got me? I kind of wish she smacked him in the face. That's what's messing with me, because she put his hand on his face, and that is Christian, because he's been wanting to get that butt, that ass. And instead of just going a nice hard smack to the face, she takes a drink and throws it in his face. I think would have been better if she just smacked the taste out of his mouth, but she did not. But after that happened, after the steps, you get the emergency officials coming out, getting out the stretcher. Then you see a Christian Cage starting cutting up and pulling the mat off of the apron of the ring. And I think I got a shot of that. And he does something I didn't expect him to do. After he pulled up the mat and the canvas from the exposed wood, he gets up on the top turnbuckle. He's looking over Darby, who's on the stretcher, and he dives right on top of him, splashes his ass on that stretcher. No one expected it. It went from that to the point where you got a super powerbomb onto the exposed wood, and then you get the ref getting speared. I think I got a shot of that. I don't know how many shots I'm putting in. If I don't have them, they're not there, sorry. It is almost over. And you get Nick Wayne coming out, who's all taped up because of what happened with Luchasaurus. Instead of Luchasaurus, he comes out and he stops a Christian from grabbing the title. He takes the team to the title. He's about to nail a Darby in the face with it. He grabs it. Now you see Darby and you see Nick standing together. And the first thought that went through my head, he says, okay, is he going to turn? There's no way he's not going to turn. That's the thought that went in my head. That is the thought that went through my head. Is he about to turn? Is he about to turn? And he does. He turns. He nails Darby. Darby's pinned. He gets his ass beaten up after that. Sting comes out. And he is outnumbered 3-1 because Darby's just done. Even though he gets nailed in the face by Luchasaurus and goes, ah! He couldn't keep up with them. And once you see, and I'm thinking the concerto, is Adam going to come? Because he didn't have to do that. That could have been the finish of the show. And they could have walked away with Nick, because Nick has already betrayed him. He betrayed Darby. He shocked his mother. He's hugging a Christian Cage. And with Luchasaurus by his side, all three of them are there. They could have just ended the show there. But when I saw him bring out the concerto, I'm thinking, oh, is it going to be time for Adam? Is Adam coming? Is Adam coming? And then, as a position Sting, because it wasn't Darby going to do concerto, lights go out. Someone comes in a car. They show a video. They turn off the lights. They show a video. They saw someone going into a car. Now, at first, I'm thinking, could that be Adam? Or could that be Sami Callihan? Now, I wouldn't think they would give Sami this moment. Even though Sammy's well known in Wrestling Revolver, he's well known to JD. He's a professional. I didn't think they would give it to Sami. But I'm thinking, could that be Sami? Because they're playing weird music. They're playing a special presentation. And I'm thinking, maybe that's Sami. But then the music clicks and I'm going like, it's Adam. And they let him keep his original music. On this day, I see clearly he was allowed to keep his music. And I'm going like, oh shit. So Vince was like, okay, you're going to leave? Fine. You're going to AEW's? Fine. You want to take your original music that you've used for years? We'll allow you to have it with them. Okay. You can't use the Edge name, but you can take the music. We'll let you have it. And they let him keep the music. He comes out, and then you think, once he's staring face to face with Christian, are you gonna do it? Are you gonna nail Sting with the concerto? And he takes his chair, he looks at Christian, and he's about to do it. And Nick Wayne is pointing at him like, let him have it. And as he's winding up, he nails Nick Wayne in the back, and pretty much the fight begins. And Christian, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne run. Darby gets a handshake, Sting gets a handshake, and we get Literally, the last thing we see is Adam Copeland's face on the screen. This is a very good show. There is no way you can say that it's trash completely. I know there's going to be people who say there's just too much flips and kicks and those spot monkeys. I know people are going to say that. There's going to be other people who say the matches were not bad, but there's no story. There was story, but not as much as people wanted. Because they want like this amount of story. Impact is like this when it comes to story. They got a lot of storylines. AEW's here. And let's be honest, as much as people want to say WWE is the best, the stories are here. The most they had was the Bloodline. And now it's Judgment Day. That's all they got. They got no major stories. They don't. They got The Rock coming back, but there's no story behind him. They got John Cena who's back, but there's no story with him. Nothing. So, when it comes down to it, AEW has more story than WWE at this point. And that's not counting NXT. Not counting it. Because that's their developmental. That's not the main roster. But this is what I see. Now, you guys tell me below what you think. Have a good day. Have a good night. And if I got something, just tell me below. Ask me what you think. Peace.